Hey guys, I'm Arda with ESPN Esports. You can catch the Rift Rewind every single Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 Pacific on Twitch, the ESPN app, YouTube, and Twitter.
What I really want to talk about with you, though, is the Schalke No Fear game, because this is Schalke's first win. It is G2's second loss on the week. And I'm looking at this game, and for me, it comes down to, well, first of all, they have that botched turret dive really early. But that is fine, actually, because Caps resets the wave and bot. And so you have a game state where the wave is actually set up for G2 and bot. It's kind of set up for them in mid, and Perks actually sends Cassiopeia back. And then he tries to kill her anyway, and Inax TP's in. And now I want to give credit to Inax, because that was a great play from him. He recognizes that he can go in, he has Sheen, he can burst Perks down before Perks can do anything. But that, for me, is where I saw G2 kind of overreaching in certain situations I'm not used to seeing them do.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at their record last week, I mean, Caps broke a record this weekend, so congratulations to Caps. He died 9 times. I believe in 8 of those were before the 15th minute mark, making it the first time in LEC history, including
I think it was 7, yeah. It was pretty nuts.
But I think the thing that people are gonna look at this and kind of focus on is Caps, right? Was it a mistake? Is it time to move back to, Perks AD, Caps mid? Was it a giant mistake? Is it all over? Do we need to freak out? What's your take from this? Obviously, I think is that anyone who freaks out about this weekend doesn't know G2. I think G2 will be fine. G2 knows that they can play around. It wasn't a great weekend. They were outplayed versus Misfits and Schalke, especially Schalke is a game where they're going to want to have back. But this is a team where it is spring. There's no championship points. Everything's looking towards summer. For G2 and every other team, it's ramping up until that point. So anyone who wants Caps to go back into mid lane, Perks to the bottom lane, I think is quite silly. I think it's really, really just, you're just pushing the wagon before the horse. I mean, this team needs time to gel. And for Caps, who's looked very good the previous weeks in AD, he needs more time in the position. It was the same thing as Perks. Perks had some amazing early weekends as an AD carry, and then there were weekends where he fed. And I think it's going to be the same thing as Caps, and we're not going to see Caps' full potential as an AD until later in 2020, maybe not even until Worlds.
So I think you see a lot of, that's kind of the reason why I wanted to bring up that bottom lane state, right? Because you see a lot of things from Caps where he obviously knows how to punish, right? Ideally, if Perks doesn't go for that kill and just settles for the back, they have mid and bot set, where they have a state where, Inax is going to lose a ton of farm despite the early kill. He's not going to be TPing mid because of the way that Perks will have backed off and not gone for the kill. And I'm not blaming this on Perks. I'm saying a lot of these come down to really minute places in the game where they're overreaching, and I don't think it's a Caps versus Perks thing. Yeah. I actually kind of want to continue my hot take that they're going to be even better than last year with Caps in the bot lane and Perks in the mid lane. I think people might look at me like I'm insane now after that one Caps performance that everyone is kind of going to harp on, where he just kind of keeps overreaching and doesn't really know the limits on Aphelios. And you also have
G2, right?
Well, I mean, also, I think Mickey, for me, always deserves, a ton of credit for kind of bringing up both of these players in the bottom lane, actually. But again, you saw a few instances from him that aren't even just from this week, but previous weeks where he had some kind of overreaching in places. I think G2 will, quite easily actually be able to recover, because, again, throughout this entire game, I guess I would say especially in the Schalke game, I think you see that they really know what to do, and it comes down to these really, really small, misexecuted things. I do say that they had multiple misexecuted dives this past week too.
How much can we take this from Schalke though? Going from G2 to Schalke, is this a revival of Schalke? Obviously, they had the Forgiven drama. Forgiven stepped down randomly through a tweet because they weren't working hard enough to placate him, and he kind of quit, kind of not, and there was a firestorm about that. had to bring in a sub. How much credit do you give Schalke for their victory, and do you think this is the start of a comeback for them?
I mean, I think Schalke still has a lot of things to work on in terms of just macro things, early pathing, that kind of thing. One thing I do think, though, that I want to take a look at for that Inox TP, right? Like, do you see forgiving going for that play?
No.
So I think that's where you have you bring in some of the younger players who have been performing really, really well elsewhere, and you give them a shot on the LEC stage, and you get things like this where it's not perfect. They're gonna mess up. They're gonna make just as many mistakes as G2. But in the end of the day, you will see them going for some of these plays that you might not see forgiving going for, right? And that affected the entire early state of the game in that one game. Because if that doesn't happen, then G2 has everything set up in mid. They have everything set up in bot. They get both heralds in that game. They still get both heralds in the game, and they should be able to just close it out come mid game. So I really liked what I saw from Schalke 04 in that game specifically, because I saw young players going for plays that I might not necessarily see other players go for.